Well, hey there, we just came through the Olympic Games, and the competition and the drama were captivating. Athletes from all over the world competed in all this variety of games. Throughout it all, though, we were told, when another Olympic record was broken or even a world record was broken, and we would cheer as we celebrated the greatest in the sport, whether it was the world's fastest swimmers or the world's fastest man or woman in track. And through it all, we kept track of that medal count, didn't we? I told you about my insufferable Australian friends. You know, early on in the Olympics, they had more gold medals than the U.S. did. And then finally, when the U.S. exceeded their medal count, the arguments changed suddenly. From the medal count to gold medals per capita now. All right. So they're making statistics and math say whatever they wanted to say. But this is human nature, isn't it? I mean, this has taken place all throughout history. Empires have risen and fallen as they sought to be the strongest and the most expansive. And individually, we see this in our own lives, right? People will scratch and they'll claw at work to make it to the top. Will the HOA members leverage their newfound power in our neighborhoods? In our homes, we battle for the remote or have become just innately familiar with that term sibling rivalries if you have kids. So who's going to be the best? This is what we're always worried about. It's just the way of the world. It's how the world operates. Even now, think about it this year. We're in an election year, and both parties are pulling out all the stops to get their message in front of you. They're raising so much money, millions and millions of dollars, all to share their ideas, to get your attention. And they'll even vilify each other because what's at stake? Influence and power. And in Jesus' time, Israel was under the empire of Rome, and many people in Israel lived in extreme poverty. They had very limited freedom while they were oppressed by this empire and overtaxed. And this is what led to so much excitement about Jesus when he came on the scene. Because there was this age-old promise of the sent one, the rescuer, the redeemer of the world, the Messiah. And it was understood by many that the Messiah would ultimately sit on the throne in Israel, and they would cast off the chains of Rome, and they would lead the world. Well, as Jesus' ministry went on for multiple years, it started from these very humble beginnings to growing popularity and notoriety as thousands came to see this teacher and miracle worker. And each year, Jesus' fame grew and grew and grew. But along with that, so did the tensions with the political and the religious leaders. Why? Because to them, power and position were at stake. Now, Matthew was a former tax collector for the Roman Empire, and he met Jesus and left his life to follow him. And he records a conversation of Jesus near the end of his ministry. So to set the stage, Jesus' crucifixion is imminent. It's going to happen soon. His disciples don't quite get it yet. They have their own assumptions and priorities, as we already talked about. So Matthew records in Matthew 20, 18, and 19, one of Jesus's most vulnerable and amazing statements. He says to his disciples, listen, he said, we're going up to Jerusalem, where the Son of Man will be betrayed to the leading priests and the teachers of the religious law. They will sentence him to die. Now, Jesus is talking about himself. He liked to call himself the Son of Man. It was one of his favorite terms for himself. So he says, look, I'm going to be sentenced to die. Then, he said, they will hand him over to the Romans to be mocked, flogged with a whip, and crucified. But on the third day, he'll be raised from the dead. I mean, these are some pretty heady words. Hey, have you ever wondered, man, if God would just tell me what he's up to? You know, if I could just know what is going on and what to expect, then I would follow him more closely. Well, this moment in history dissuades us all of that type of thinking, because Jesus predicts in detail his crucifixion and his resurrection. He did this to set his disciples at ease so that they wouldn't be stressed out over these next several days, so that they would know that he's in control. And Jesus is just being so vulnerable in this moment. And the next days, he knew were going to be so difficult for him. You'd think that maybe his disciples would say, hey, thank you for sharing this with us, or show some empathy and put their arms around him and support him. But instead, you'll never guess what happens next. The very next verse, Matthew continues to write, Then the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus with her sons, and she knelt respectfully to ask a favor. What's your request? He asked. And she replied, Well, in your kingdom, please let my two sons sit in places of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left. Immediately after this revealing and vulnerable statement, James and John's mom asks for preferential treatment for her sons for all eternity. Now, you have to know that Jesus was very close to James and John, and Peter for that matter. They were actually his inner circle of friends. But can you imagine this? Hey, Mom, can you ask Jesus if he'll give us seats of honor? And the timing of this, it couldn't have been more wrong. It's amazing today. People talk about Gen Z, how they invite their parents to job interviews, or parents calling employers after their adult kids have been fired, and getting themselves involved. Well, this stuff has apparently been going on for thousands of years. So why did this happen? Because they were living by the same standard of the world as everyone else. And that's this. It matters where you sit. Whether it's the cool table at high school, or the seat next to power, or the luxury box at the sporting events or concert, or the promotion. Remember this in Thanksgiving, from the card table to the Thanksgiving table? It all matters. Well, Matthew goes on to write, when the 10 other disciples heard what James and John had asked through their mom, they were indignant. What a word, huh? They were indignant. Now, the other disciples, they weren't necessarily indignant or upset, for the fact that these guys asked this with such bad timing. They were indignant for all the wrong reasons. They didn't believe that what the brother's mom asked, of Jesus was wrongheaded at all. They were mad that they hadn't thought about it themselves. They were actually angry that James and John were putting one over on them. That, whoa, man, why would you ask that? I should have asked that. And they felt like, a little political play by James and John. So Jesus follows something here, though, that's something very profound. And he gathers his disciples again for their attention. He called them together and he said this, you know that the rulers in this world, they lord it over the people, and officials flaunt their authority over those that are under them. Then he said this, but among you, it'll be different. This is one of Jesus' more radical statements. He takes normal and he turns it on its head. We've been told that a life of significance will result in more authority for us, or less submission, more influence, less work. Ultimately, it's about people serving me, we think, but not me serving other people. And Jesus says, no. You've got it all wrong. It's the exact opposite. And he would know, because he was involved in the creation of mankind. Paul wrote in Colossians that through him, God created everything. Through Jesus, God created everything. And one of his disciples, John, who was so close to him, wrote, nothing was created except through Jesus. So Jesus knows us better than we know ourselves. And Jesus believed this so much that he not only taught this, he actually lived this out. The King of Kings, Jesus, touched the untouchable. He laid down his life for the undeserved, people like me and people like you. We've talked all year about following Jesus here at our church. And if we're true followers of Jesus, we cannot pass over his priority and what he values. And that is that we are called to serve other people. Paul expounded on this to the churches and to us when he wrote in Philippians 2, be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. Guys, Jesus knows and he understands us better than we know ourselves. He says that your life is to be defined by service. He lives this out. He's our example. And if anyone deserved to be served, it's Jesus. But instead, he laid down his life for the least deserving people in the world, us. So Matthew goes on to write what Jesus said: whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must become your slave. And then he says this pinnacle verse: for even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many. He's trying to bring that conversation back to what he was originally starting to talk about. But Jesus says that in the kingdom of God, the path to greatness is through humility and service to others. You know, in the New Testament, Paul writes that after we say yes to Jesus, he says there's kind of these stages of development and growth in our life, just like there are in our physical lives. And he illustrates it in his writings this way. So many of you guys are familiar with our granddaughter, Nolly. And she is just the center of our attention, of Laura and I's attention these days. We just love her so much and love spending time with her. And many of you know her story, where she was born premature at 28 weeks. Guys, I have to tell you, the first time I saw her at the NICU unit in North Carolina, she was so tiny. Matter of fact, we were just talking about this last week with our family. Her head was the size of a lemon. That's it. So, consequently, development and growth has been a priority in her life since she was born, right? You just want to make sure she catches up and to all the markers. Well, over the summer, she turned 2 years old. Now, here's the great news. The doctors told us that she has already caught up within the markers of her development already. In just 2 years, she's right back there where all the other 2-year-olds are when it comes to sizes and development and all of the markers that are so important for all of us. And matter of fact, she's so advanced. Here she is helping me drive a boat. I mean, this girl's just got so much talent and so much ability. Smartest girl in the world. Well, guys, when you say yes to Jesus, you begin this brand new life. And you're like a spiritual baby. Now, you may not be premature, but it's kind of like being a baby who's born. And it's all about developing and growing. You need to have the correct nutrition, God's word. You need to start engaging in the correct practices, like praying and being here on Sundays, or connecting with us during the week, or experiencing communion and going public with your faith in baptism. You know, at this stage, it's healthy to have people who care about you, to surround you, to be around you. And we not only hear it taught to us, but it's also caught by the example of others, of what it looks like to follow Jesus. So, going back to our illustration of our awesome granddaughter, Nolly, for her, when it comes to eating, right now in her life, there's a whole process. And it involves a high chair, but it also involves a bib. Here's a beautiful picture of her in her high chair with a bib. Now, why? Because as you develop, things get messy, such as learning how to hold a fork or a spoon. And the same thing is true in your spiritual life as you're following Jesus. Following Jesus, it gets messy. You know, you see God move in your life in an amazing way. And then there's times where you wonder, where is he? Today, I don't know where he is. You're changing habits and impulses. God's renewing your mind, and he's growing your heart, and he's developing you, and he's making you, he's helping you understand him more. And so here's the thing. As our kids, I think about our own story of, we have 4 kids, and they're all adults now, but as our kids were growing up in our household, they all went through the same thing Nolly did. They went through the high chair and bib stage. But then a change began to take place. And they grew to the point where they were out of the high chair, and now they were seated at the table. And it got to the point where it was time for them to kind of help out a little bit, right? Like clean up some of their dishes or help set the table or to fill the dishwasher incorrectly. And if they didn't do these things, this kind of got weird, didn't it? It just kind of was like, wait a minute, this is not how a family operates. Guys, there's a frustration and a worry that overtakes us as parents in those moments, isn't it? Like we start to ask the question. We may not even say it out loud, but inside we're like, are these guys going to turn out all right? I mean, why are we wrestling here with them trying to get more involved in helping out around here? Are they going to really make it in this world? We start asking all these questions. Why? Why? Because helping each other and helping, during the time at home in these types of moments, those are all signs of maturity and development. They're taking the next step. Now, let's move away from our house or maybe your house and take a look at our church. Guys, we see this all the time in churches. People find a church and they're so excited and they're experiencing all these new things as they grow and develop. And then some people move on from a church, and one of their reasons may be that they feel that they're not being fed anymore. But I wonder, and I know that some churches are funny in some ways, and there could be good excuses with that, but I think overall, I wonder if the reason the church isn't filling them is because they're still wearing the bib for far too long in their life. They come in, they sit down, they get fed, feed me, fill me up, all that stuff takes place. And you want to know the fastest way to grow dissatisfied in a church you love is to never take the bib off, to just always have it on. But here's the thing, eventually it leads to dissatisfaction. And the disease of me begins to take over. And it stunts your growth. And it stunts your development. And now you're not healthy anymore. And Peter writes about this. This is such an important transition that takes place in our life. He says in 1 Peter 5:5, clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility toward one another. For God opposes the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. What's he saying here? He's saying that, guys, as followers of Jesus, the bib eventually needs to be taken off, and you need to put something else on, and he calls it the apron, well, we're going to call it today, the apron of humility. So I'm going to put on my apron here from home. And this is quite different, than a bib, having on this apron. So the moment you put one of these things on, you know what's amazing about it? It changes your whole attitude because it clearly communicates what you're about to do and what it's all about. And what's fascinating about a bib and an apron is that, honestly, they serve the same purpose, but they communicate two very different attitudes, don't they? The bib says, serve me, but the apron says, I'm here to serve others. Hey, have you ever shown up to church and it all seems so personal? Just like the spotlight was on you in some way. How did the pastor know that this is exactly what I'm dealing with in my life? And these songs are all the songs that I love to sing. And then you come back the next week, same place, same people. Didn't get so much out of that one. Well, that is a bib kind of attitude. I mean, it's amazing how everything gets when we have the apron attitude instead. That servant mindset. It really changes your whole outlook. It changes your perspective. It broadens. You become more interested in the overall mission of the church. You want to see life change, not only yours, but other life change as well. And you discover that serving is what you were literally created to do. It's literally a call to significance, and it can really fill up your heart. So, in his book, The Healing Power of Doing Good, Alan Lux explores the profound impact that serving and helping others can have on us physically and mentally as well. And Lux introduces the concept of what he calls the helper's high. Now, it's a term that he coined to describe the euphoria and subsequent health benefits that people who serve experience. And through his research, which involved over 3,000 volunteers, He revealed that helping others can lead to significant health benefits. He describes the helper's high as a two-phase phenomenon. First, you have this immediate physical feel-good sensation when you serve, followed by a longer lasting sense of calm and increased self-worth. And this sensation, he says, is akin to the endorphin rush that people experience during physical exercise. This is amazing. Physical benefits, he says, includes a strengthened immune system, pain reduction and stress relief, and mental benefits include increased self-worth and increase in empathy and compassion, and a reduction in negative attitudes. So also through his research, he discovered that frequency matters when it comes to serving. The greater the frequency of serving, the greater the health benefits. So what did he discover? That God created us to serve others. Yet serving is so different from the power dynamic of today, isn't it? Serving is not about me, it's about everyone else. It's really living that golden rule life. And matter of fact, we want our place at Fellowship to be a place where you learn to serve, where you have opportunities to serve, whether it's right here within our church or whether it's even abroad in other nations. We just helped send a team of FCers to Costa Rica, and this is what they experienced throughout a week of serving the most impoverished children.
On Saturday, July 20th, our small but mighty team of 10 headed for San Jose, Costa Rica, and a week serving with the Hope Center. 5 members of the team were boomerangs and had served last year, and 5 were new to the trip. This year, we were excited and looking forward to see and work in the new Hope Center. Our visit last year allowed us to see the construction, but this year we were able to serve in the new center and see how God is moving in Costa Rica. On the very first day, we were given a bus tour of Pavas, an area of San Jose where 60,000 people live in a 1-mile radius. In an area of extreme poverty, we were driven down the street, some areas piled high with garbage, others just dirty and dingy, and then there in front of us was the clean, pale yellow fence surrounding the Hope Center, a beacon of light in an otherwise dark and dismal area. Several years ago, the country of Costa Rica declared that poverty was a family of 4 living on $400 or less per month. In the area of Pavas, a typical family of 8 lives on $100 or less per month. These are the children that the Hope Center serves. These were the children that we got to serve, play with, and help bring hope to. The Hope Center's mission is to rescue and transform the lives of children through acts of compassion. The staff understands that rescue must happen before long-term transformation can take place. The rescue portion of their mission consists of food and a safe environment. The Hope Center offers healthy food daily to the 540 children they serve, and there is currently a waiting list of over 200 more. They offer a safe environment with many staff and volunteers who care for them and show them love. With the basic needs met, they are able to work towards long-term transformation. This involves a discipleship program where all children have a mentor and learn regularly about the hope God can give them and the love He has for them. It also includes help with education. They offer tutoring, after-school programs, and summer camps. There are also programs to further educate the moms and the families to help provide for their children's future. They have also recently started a scholarship fund that helps children of Pavas coming out of the Hope Center's program go to college. Truly long-term transformation at work. One life-changing experience we had this year was the opportunity to take a prayer walk. Our team walked, surrounded by the Hope Center staff, in an area in the middle of Pavas that you cannot get to by car. We saw up close the conditions that the children of the Hope Center live in. Sheet metal lean-tos, dirt floors, no running water, 8 people living in a 1-room hut, or even some in tents. Coming away from that experience, we were all touched by the joy we saw every day on the faces of the children we served. The Hope Center meets not only their physical needs, but the spiritual ones as well. They learn about Jesus. They know He loves them. They have hope, and because of that, they have joy, even in their current living conditions. One highlight of our week was the opportunity to play with the children each day on their new playground area. While the new playground equipment is due any day, we had so much fun running around, jumping rope, and playing tag. This was particularly exciting since Fellowship was able to donate $30,000 2 years ago from our Christmas offering towards that very playground. Having a safe place to play will make a difference in the lives of so many kids. Thank you, Fellowship Church, for your generosity also in helping alleviate the costs of the 10 people who traveled to Costa Rica. We truly felt like ambassadors for Fellowship. Your generosity in so many ways makes you part of the stories and lives that are being changed in Pavas. We can't wait to go back next summer and see what God has continued to do. I hope you will consider joining us.
Guys, we all want to be a part of something significant, whether it's abroad in another nation, or whether it's in our community here in central Connecticut, or whether it's even right here in our church. And today, you have a chance to do just that. You can make a difference. You can be what we like to call around here a difference maker. You know, when you walk in, people are not, think about this at our church, people are not just opening doors or making a coffee or tea. They're actually creating warm, inviting environments where you feel welcomed and where you feel loved. Even viewing this online, there was people who put all of this together, put edits together and pictures and all kinds of things in order for you to have a clear and an engaging experience to learn and grow in your faith. I think about the men, women, and teenagers who serve in our kids' environments, that they're not just babysitting kids, they're helping children experience Jesus at their level. You know, guys, I don't know if you know this, but I grew up in this church. And since I was 10 years old, and some of the greatest memories have been about those adults who served in those kids and student environments. And I can tell you this day, I'm so grateful for those who volunteered their time, who gave of their gifts to help influence and develop my faith. And maybe your story is similar. Maybe this resonates with you. So I want to invite you today into a life of significance, to actually become a difference maker if you're not. And here online, you can probably hit a QR code or connect in some way. And if God is speaking to you to put on the apron of humility, man, I would say go ahead and write your name and your best contact, give it to us, preferably an email or a phone number. And if you're already serving, man, you're all set. But if you're not, I would love for you to join one of our teams. But I also want to end our time addressing some of the common pushbacks, because anytime there's an ask like this, you know, we get a little nervous and we have some reasons why not. And so I just want to go over those with you and maybe help allay some of those fears. The first one is this. Hey, you know, Pastor Andy, I'd like to, but I'm kind of new here. To which I would say, man, it's okay to be new. We always want new people here. It's part of our mission. And if there's no new people, then something's really wrong around here. We want to be a church that faces outward, not only inward. But as you're new, there may be a short season, you know, that you're in right now. But it's our desire that that new season of new, that it be as short as possible. Because think about this. When you're new, it's easy to walk away. If you're new to the gym, it's easy to just quit. If you're new to a diet, you're like, what was I thinking? I'm not doing this anymore. And if you're new to church, it's easy to walk away. You don't have a lot of relationships. But the fastest way of not feeling new is by joining a team, becoming known, becoming connected. So I want to encourage you to keep that season short. And maybe today's the day you take that next step. A second pushback is this. I am afraid I don't know what to do. I don't know if I have the qualifications or ability to do any of this stuff. I have no idea. And guys, let's be honest. I mean, many of us, we're intimidated to step into something new because, you know, we want to know all about it before we step into it. Can I just say that our leaders here at our church are loving, patient, they're caring, and there's ways to onboard you where you really do feel supported and you do feel part of the team. And really, when you're signing up for a conversation more than you're signing up for a serving opportunity right away, because we want to walk you through this together. But make no mistake, God has gifted you to serve. And it's so special when you use it for His glory. It's powerful in your life. So when you sign up, your next step is really a conversation more than it is just being thrust into a moment. And the final thought might be this: hey, this pushback might be, I tried this before, but I didn't hear back. I filled out the form. I did what I was supposed to do. And I just want to say, if that's ever happened to you, man, I'm so sorry. But our leaders are committed to that not happening at all. Matter of fact, they're going to be reaching out to you, as soon as they hear from you, probably within 24 hours. And you'll get an email, a text, and a phone call, however you choose to connect with us. But I hope that you'll join us on our mission to help people find and follow Jesus. It can really be a pathway to meaning in your life, to making a difference, and to allowing the church, which is you and me, honestly, to accomplish its greatest potential as Jesus leads us. So I hope that you'll join us, become part of the team, be a difference maker here at Fellowship Church, and watch what God does and how He develops and how He grows you through service. God bless you.